Kia ora. Have you noticed the increase of luxury and extravagant goods lately? I was doing some work around this. Like why spend $20 on a box of chocolates when you could spend $10,000 on a box of chocolates? There's a picture of a box designed by chocolate company Pitachi. Suede leather, linings of gold and platinum. Chocolate's wrapped in Indian silk. I'm sure that kind of changes the flavor of the chocolate somehow, right? And then here's some sandals designed by Stuart Wisman. Price tag of $1.6 million US. I'm sure they're wonderful. Well, these are carats of rubies, and you can pop them on as you pop down and grab some milk from the supermarket. You can even purchase now what's called Renova Black. Anybody know what Renova Black is? It's designer toilet paper. Like really, $20 for New Zealand dollars for a roll of designer toilet paper. And all this kind of consumption begins at this really early age, doesn't it? In fact, I came across one study that said the average 5-year-old has 250 toys. Now just think about that. I mean, the average 5-year-old's only lived for 250 weeks. That's a toy every single week of his or her life. And this isn't just true of the elite. This starts to affect, ordinary you and me. We're bombarded with advertisements, with kind of simple messages that say you will look better, you will feel better, you will be better if you just have, Renova Black in your toilet. It affects the way we look at ourselves, the way we see life around us, the way we see each other. Last night, I came across the latest Lotto ad for the first time. And I'm not endorsing Lotto, just kind of make sure I say that up front, but have you seen it? I thought we could kind of watch it here and watch the way you feel throughout the advert as well. Let's play it.
I'd buy an Aston Martin DB9.
Well, we had a rule you can't just say car names.
It's your rule, not mine.
Vehicle 103 en route.
Copy that, 103.
Okay. I'd buy my mom a house. Nice house.
You buy her an island, mate.
Why didn't I think of that?
Me? I'd take all of us on a round the world trip.
I can barely stand a single shift with you today.
First class you could. Stop off at Mumbai. Pick up a test at the Brabourne Stadium.
Oh, now you're talking.
Kids can see where you grew up.
You'd have to stick with my parents.
Hey. What if we just kept driving?
Okay, here we go, funny guy, huh? You have to take the next turn here, okay? Here. Come on, we've got pickups and drop-offs to do. What are you doing? Hey.
Vehicle 103. Please confirm status.
You going to answer that?
Come on, Satish. You don't want to do this all your life, do you?
103.
Please, come on, no.
Confirm status.
Think about it, mate. It's everything we've dreamed of.
We've never dreamed of going to jail. They've got us on GPS. Where are we going? What are you doing?
I hope your passport's up to date.
103, do you copy? Please confirm status.
What do we always say? 50-50. 103 to centre.
Copy 103.
Delivery complete.
Don't spend it on a one, Satish.
It's ours, mate.
You're joking.
I'm not joking.
All of this.
Remember your mates in dispatch.
I mean, it's a really clever ad. I mean, we have to say that. I mean, brilliant. But, you know, I love that line. It's everything you've ever dreamed of. You know, the truckload of money, literally. And even when I was watching the ad, not knowing what we're talking about today, I even found myself starting to dream. Yeah, how could I spend that? You know, all the things start to go through your mind, isn't it? And then you suddenly realize how seduced we are by all these dreams and by this need to consume. And in fact, we're really consumed by that, aren't we? And it's like Jesus takes a back seat. And the mission Jesus calls us to actually starts to take a back seat to these dreams that start to be captured in our imaginations. You know, the Bible has a lot to say about money because I think it realizes this appetite, that this need we have to so often consume. There's 2,300 verses that address the topic of money in the Bible. It's huge, isn't it? So as a church that preaches the Bible, money is going to be a topic that comes up from the Bible. And I think God realizes that we tend to get consumed around these things, so we need to kind of reset in order to consume Jesus and his mission rather than be consumed by these other things. So as a church, we're going through the Gospel of Luke. We're over half of our way through the story of Jesus right now. And Luke, out of all the writers of Scripture, has more stories to do with Jesus teaching about money than any of the other Gospel writers. Wants us to hone in. So today we come across this surprising story in Luke chapter 16. It's a story largely ignored. I can't remember ever hearing this story when I was growing up. Jesus taught it to his disciples so that their whole and our whole perspective of money and stuff would change radically. This is how he begins in Luke chapter 16. Jesus told a story to his disciples that there was a certain rich man who had a manager handling his affairs. So just stop there. There's already two characters in our story. There's a business owner that the text calls here a rich man, and secondly, someone who handles his business affairs, so a business manager. One day, that business owner hears the business manager is mismanaging the business. We read. One day, a report came that the manager was wasting his employer's money. So the employer called him in and said, "What's this I hear about you? Get your report in order because you're going to be fired. You know, the word on the street is you're underperforming, you're wasting my money. I'm going to get the auditors in, they're going to go through the books, and I'm sure they're going to come across some imbalances here and there, all because of what you're doing. And if that's true, you're gone, as good as gone, you're fired." Manager thought to himself, now what? Your boss has fired me. I don't have the strength to dig ditches. Too proud to dig. I know how to ensure I'll have plenty of friends who will give me a home when I'm fired. Before we look at his plan, just see what's going on. The manager knows that these accusations are true. So he knows full well the auditors are going to come in, they're going to see some discrepancies, and he's cooked his chips. But this dishonest manager is actually, at this point, still officially employed, still managing the guy's money. He has a little bit of time, and he has a little bit of opportunity. And he realizes that he's onto a good gig. He's a white-collar businessman through and through. He knows he's not going to be able to handle like a physical job. He's too proud to beg. He's been onto a pretty good thing, wants to keep up a standard of living. So he comes up with this plan. Here's one of those kind of aha light bulb moments. He says, I've got this little bit of time left. I've got this little bit of opportunity. I know what I'm going to do before I'm officially fired. So he invited each person who owed money to his employer to come and discuss the situation. He asked the first one, how much do you owe him? How much do you owe the business owner? Remember, at this stage, he's still kind of finishing off the business dealings. He's still in charge of the books. And though this is, a little dodgy, he takes a little bit of time, a little bit of opportunity, and starts to talk to the people who owe some money. The first guy replied, I owe him 800 gallons of olive oil. So the manager told him, take the bill quickly changed it to 400 gallons. Now, when you do some background here, 800 gallons was worth about 3 years of wages. So when you take the average wage today of about 50K, multiply it by $350,000, a lot of money. So this guy says, okay, so you owe my, the business owner $150,000. What say we cut that in half right now, and you just give me $75,000, and then it's all done and dusted. I mean, the guy can't believe his luck. He gets his phone out and transfers the funds immediately. He goes to the dishonest businessman and says, hey, thank you for that. I mean, you're like so generous. Absolutely amazing what you've done. And he begins to walk off and then turns back and says to the dishonest manager, hey, by the way, if you're ever in a tight spot, if you're ever in a place of need, please come and knock on my door because I'd love to help you out. To which you can imagine the dishonest businessman in his mind going, you bet I will, sooner than you think. Guy can't believe his luck, goes into the next guy. Says, how much do you owe my employer? I owe him 1,000 bushels of wheat, was the reply. Here the manager said, take the bill and change it to 800 bushels. 1,000 bushels at that time was about 8 to 10 years' wages. It's a lot of money. So I guess the dialogue says something like this, man, it's going to take you a long time to pay. How about I cut you a deal, take 20% off it right now as long as you pay immediately. To which obviously the business guy says, great, deal. You bet, 20% reduction, you've saved me like a year or two of work. Paperwork's all filled in, deal is done. And then as he leaves, the owner of this other business says, if I really appreciate how you've helped me out today. Really, it's an amazing reduction. If I could ever help you out in the future, can you come and let me know because I'd love to return the favor. Goes on to all the people that owe money to his employer. He still has the authority at this point to act on his employer's behalf. He's taking that little bit of time, that little bit of opportunity, it's deal day. And he leverages his time and opportunity for his own good. Now, by the time all these deals are done, the auditor's gone through the books, the business owner realizes that the books don't balance, that this guy's about to be fired. He also hears about the charity deals that have been done. I mean, this guy clearly has to go. The story finishes. The rich man, the owner of the business, had to admire the dishonest rascal for being so shrewd. When the business owner hears about the deal his ex-manager now has cut, he has to sit back and acknowledge that this guy is one shrewd individual, dishonest rascal. Don't you love the wording? Though he's completely dishonest, he says to himself, he knows how to act when it's for his own best interests. He took that little bit of time and that little bit of opportunity and he did something for his own future. I mean, it's cunning. What a strange story, isn't it? I mean, what do we do with a story like this one? I'm sure the crowd were kind of wondering what the point is at this, moment in Jesus' story too. I mean, is Jesus teaching greedy pursuit and unethical business practices? Thankfully, Jesus goes on and actually explains the story. He says, it's true that the children of this world are more shrewd in dealing with the world around them than are the children of light. The people of this world, the ones who think that what you see is all that there is, the people who don't think about eternity, the people who don't know God, Jesus says they're actually more shrewd when it comes to thinking about money and what's in it for them than those of us who actually have an eternity. That they're more shrewd and taking that little bit of time and taking that little bit of opportunity and leveraging it now for their future, albeit just here. But those of us who believe there's a greater reality both now and forever, Jesus says we need to learn a lesson from this dishonest money manager. Because this guy knows how to act when it's for his own best interests. And Jesus says, there's something I want to teach you that's actually for your best interests. And he goes on to give 3 perspectives about money. It's like Jesus is taking the role of a financial advisor, sitting down with us and going to give us some tips. I've made them all begin with T to help us remember them. Isn't that nice of me? Here's the first one. Money is a tool to make forever friends. Jesus says, here's the lesson. Use your worldly resources to benefit others and make friends. Then when your earthly possessions are gone, they will welcome you to an eternal home. You see, the money manager understood that money is this tool that can be leveraged to make friends. So he goes out, he cuts deals. His whole drive was that he would be welcomed into these homes of these other business people that he'd helped. He's serving his own interests. And Jesus says, this is what you need to do as followers of me. Theologically, all our stuff belongs to God anyway. It's all on loan from God. So in a similar way, we have a little bit of time, we have a little bit of opportunity, and Jesus says, I want you to learn from this guy. Be shrewd. Spend it on what will be for your best interests eternally. Realize that money is a tool to make forever friends. I love this quote from Woody Allen. Eternity is long, especially towards the end. In that case, leverage your money as a tool to make friends that are forever. We have the word generosity up here as one of our values. It's meant to describe us. One of the things that means is that we will use our money and our possessions to make forever friends. And if you do that, you'll hear words one day like, hey, I was 6 years old when I came with my parents to Green Lane Christian Centre, and they linked in, and they loved it. And I came to know Jesus through the children's ministry that the church had, and then I gave my life for the mission. And you were one of the ones that invested in the ministries of the church, like every single week. Thank you. Or hey, you probably don't remember me, but you allowed the youth group to come to your place to use your pool. I'm not sure if you remember, but I'm the one that stuffed up your pump. How's the pool, by the way? I guess it's like an eternity ago now. Well, I actually met Jesus during one of those youth group times. Thank you for the role that you had in that. Hey, I went to a group that met in your lounge. You hosted a whole group of us, and that group led me through some tough moments when I was going to throw everything away. Thank you for allowing just a group of us to meet in your lounge. Or hey, you don't know me, we've never met, but you used to support the CAP ministry that helped my family get out of debt, and through that I met Jesus. You see, it's like Jesus is sitting all of us down and trying to become this financial advisor to us, and the first thing he wants us to know is that our stuff, our money, can be this tool to make forever friends. Again, he says, use your worldly resources to benefit others and make friends. Then when your earthly possessions are gone, they will welcome you into an eternal home. So it's like he would follow on from that. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to figure out how to maximize generosity for your own purposes so that you'll have friends for all eternity. I remember the first time I came face to face with the story. At the time, I was pastoring elsewhere, and we had just as a church begun building a school overseas in this Animus village in partnership with a church in that area. And it was all designed with the purpose that these children that were coming to the school would come to know Jesus and fall in love with Jesus as part of their education. Now, Robin and I at the time were giving 15% of what we earned to church and missions, and didn't have a lot more kind of buffer around that. But I really wanted to share in this particular kind of investment that we're making in the school. Just a year earlier, Robin had bought me this cool fish tank for my birthday. It's 50 fish. There were like lights, little caves for the fish to hide. I loved it. I'd sit there at night kind of, mesmerized by this fish tank. Been my dream ever since I was a child. But then this passage started to get under my skin. I began to look at the tank differently. I mean, sure, I could enjoy the tank of fish. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But at the same time, I knew I could use my stuff, in this case, a fish tank, to actually make forever friends. The school that I'd never been at. And so that's what I did. I sold the fish in the tank and never looked back, never regretted it. Even now, it leads to discussions at home from time to time when I'm at kind of, a fish store or Animates or something, and I'll head across to the fish tanks, and My son, Chase, will kind of ask, oh, that's right, we used to have the fish tank, and then I'll be able to tell the story again. I sold this because I wanted to invest in this school because I want them to get to know Jesus, to have friends forever. See, not only does Jesus teach that money is a tool to make forever friends, he goes on with some more financial advice for us, though I think that's kind of pretty big already, isn't it? But here's the second one. Money is a test of our faithfulness. See, I hear people say that they would be more generous if only they had, a truckload of money or an income of $250K each year. Then I would be generous. Jesus actually says there's a test to know whether that's true or not. Listen to what he says. If you're faithful in little things, you will be faithful in large ones. If you're dishonest in little things, you won't be honest with greater responsibilities. If you're untrustworthy about worldly wealth, who will trust you with the true riches of heaven? You're not faithful with other people's things. Why should you be trusted with the things of your own? In other words, money is a test of our faithfulness. If we're generous with a little, we can also be trusted to be generous with a lot. If we can't be faithful or generous with even a little, how can we be entrusted with a lot more both now and in the world to come? And when you think about it, we all have at least a bit. And sure, you could look around, even here in this room, look around to people who have more than what you do. But Jesus says it actually starts with whatever you have now. What you have now is a test of your faithfulness, it's a test of your generosity. How we use it now determines how God will honor us both now and in the world to come. There are riches beyond what you currently have. Now I've seen and heard of people who are generous here and God even rewards and blesses them here. One example of that is a man called Robert Laidlaw. He was the founder of Farmers, the store you go to buy your furniture and clothes and all that. It used to be Farmers Trading Company by name. Robert Laidlaw was a Christian committed to generosity. In fact, he started with this commitment early on in his life to give 10% of everything he earned to support local churches around Auckland. The business grew. Normally, though, as people earn more, proportionately, they actually give less. Goes against all the research says, it goes against all the things we normally think. Just kind of digress on that for a moment, because studies talk about this. The bigger stack you have, the lower percentage you will typically give. If you get, if you have $1, it's easy to give kind of 10 cents. If you have $100, it's pretty easy to give $10 because you can't do a whole lot with that. But when it starts climbing, when you have like $100,000 and you give $10,000, you can start to think of a lot of things you could do with $10,000. Or you get $1 million and you give away $100,000, you suddenly think about all sorts of things. But that wasn't true of Robert Laidlaw. This founder of Farmers, the time Farmers was blossoming, Laidlaw was not only just faithful to give that 10%, he actually increased the percentage. So at the end of his life, he lived on this reverse tithe. He lived on 10% and gave away 90% for kingdom purposes. In fact, a lot of churches still around Auckland have seats and pews that he bought many years ago. In fact, I mentioned this in the first service, and then one of our old-timers came up to speak to me afterwards and said, Robert Laidlaw put my husband through Bible college, and that's why I'm here today, and this is what and she started telling me some of the stories. So Jesus says this is an ongoing principle. Money is a test of our faithfulness. And Robert Laidlaw was faithful when he had little, and God honored him. And that's not always true here, but it's certainly true from this eternal perspective. If you are generous with a little, God won't trust you with a lot more. But you see, I've noticed a trend around this topic of generosity. You see, I have never met anyone that didn't want to be generous. As God stirs in your heart towards generosity, a good-hearted Christian will really say no to generosity. Really, will they lock their arms and say, absolutely not am I going to give anything. But what I've found is that there's another word that we use instead of no, and it's the word later. So somebody in high school might hear this message, or somebody at university might hear this message and just go, well, that's kind of more something to think about for like when I'm a grown-up. Not now, later. The couple graduates from uni and they marry in their 20s, and they may want to be generous someday, but just not now. I mean, they've got student loans, they're getting started in their careers, they're saving for a deposit on their house. They deeply desire to be generous. They don't really say no, they say later. And the kids arrive, and kids are expensive. Believe me, I have 4 kids, they're really expensive. Couple go from 2 incomes to an income and a half. Opportunities again come up to give, but they don't say no, they say later. Kids get older. They move into a bigger house, bigger mortgage. They hear on the news their mortgage rates might climb up, so they're trying to claw it all back. They don't say no, they say later. Then all of a sudden they're in their mid-50s and they're saving for a retirement that still needs to be done. And for 30 years they've said later, honestly believing that one day they would become generous. But do you really think you're going to be able to reverse a rut that's been there for 30 years or so? The word later is lethal, cripples generosity. And what I've come to realize is that word later is actually a polite way of saying no. And Jesus says what we do now with what we have in whatever season of life we're in is actually a test of our faithfulness, a test of our generosity. So again, Jesus sits down, he gives us this financial advice. And I think he would just say, just start somewhere. Start now. It's not a matter of how much, and just have that chat with Jesus. Is it 1%, 2%, 3%? Just starting to be generous with the little that you have. Again, it's not about the amount, it's about the posture of your heart and of the openness of your hands. When I get to a point like this around this topic, I don't typically talk about giving to church. I feel really awkward about that for a whole range of reasons that I probably need to chat to my counselor about at some point. But as I've chatted with people lately, they keep reminding me, hey, Jonathan, you need to do a better job of letting people in our church, because we're a family, know about the ministries here and how we give here. Because again, to link in, we talk about these 4 S's, don't we? We talk about Sundays. We talk about serving. We talk about small groups. And if we can put them up on the slide, we talk about stewardship. And so, this last one here, stewardship. By giving from my resources, I am linked with others through sustaining a healthy financial foundation for our church. We don't tend to talk much about this one, but let me just mention some of the ways we can do this. We have offering bags that go around every single week. And we do it as part of our worship time because it's part of our worship, giving to Jesus and saying, Jesus, this is actually yours. I want you to use it for what you're doing right here in this place today. But a lot of us don't have cash anymore or carry cash. And so we have EFTPOS out in the foyer that you can use after the service, just at the information desk. We have PushPay, which is a little app that you can download and then use your card and things like that for one-off or ongoing payment, or automatic payments. Again, the bank details are in the bulletin or up on the website. Just to, I find this a lot more helpful because I tend to forget different things. So setting something up and it's always there. My encouragement is just set something up. Talk to Jesus about the amount, but do it today. Don't use the word later when you come face to face with what Jesus is saying. So far, Jesus has a couple of tips as a financial advisor. Money is a tool to make forever friends, and money is a test of our faithfulness. One more here in the passage. Money is a trademark of our allegiance. Jesus says, no one can serve 2 masters, for you will hate one and love the other. You'll be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money. Apparently, money can master us. But I think this is one of those areas that's easy to see in others than it is in our own souls. I don't think I've ever met somebody that said to me, hey, money is my master. I don't think you would have heard that either. But Jesus says this can happen. And it can happen to the people you least expect it to happen to. So in the verse straight after this story, Luke goes on and says, the Pharisees who dearly loved their money. And it's going to pause there for a moment. These are the Pharisees, the people who wanted people to know that they loved God. They obeyed God in all these areas of life. But it's these Pharisees, deeply respected by the community at the time, dearly loved their money, heard all this and scoffed at him. And Jesus said to them, you like to appear righteous in public, but God knows your hearts. What this world honors is detestable in the sight of God. See, one of the reasons the Pharisees actually hated Jesus is because he would speak about money and possessions and call people to be generous, and they hated it. People you least expect. And again, Jesus sits us down and says, if you don't master your money by using it well, it will master you. Your heart has the capacity for only one dominating love. So every time you draw from your account, you're effectively pulling something from your heart. It's what we value. As I reflected on this, I wrote down a question. How would I know if money is my master? Because again, nobody says money's my master. So how would I know if money is the driving force ahead of Jesus? This is what I wrote down. Perhaps it's helpful for your own reflections. When I'm anxious about my finances, not trusting God to provide for my needs today and tomorrow, I'm actually in love with money and its power to make me feel more secure. Or when I find my thoughts returning again and again to something I'm hoping to buy, I'm in love with money and its power to get me what I think I need. Or when I make decisions that are spiritually unwise for myself and my family, I'm in love with money and my plan of getting more of it. When I find myself wishing that I had something that someone else has, I'm in love with money and the status or convenience or pleasure it seems to promise. When I spend more time complaining about what I do not have than rejoicing in what I do have, I'm in love with money and depend on my possessions rather than God to give me contentment and joy. When it seems difficult or even impossible to give up something I want in order to give a regular gift to the church, I'm more in love with money than I am with Jesus and what he's doing to renew people and places. Whew. So some of you might feel the Spirit of God tugging your heart toward generosity. And you honestly want to begin the journey of generosity. What I've discovered, though, is when people actually go to set up an automatic payment or write some check or do something else, we get cold feet. The questions start to come to our mind like, but what will happen to me? What will happen to that financial security and the nest egg I need to have and all these different things I could do with that money because I'm tired, I need a vacation. That's why Jesus says money is a trademark of our allegiance. Yeah, of course, this doesn't mean you can't spend money on yourself and family and those that you love. Doesn't mean we shouldn't save. I mean, our own needs and our families and all these different things are part of what Jesus calls us to be involved in life. And neither does it mean that Christians can't be wealthy. So when the Apostle Paul was writing to a younger pastor, he said, teach those who are rich in this world not to be proud and not to trust in their money, which is so unreliable. Their trust should be in God, who richly gives us everything we need for our enjoyment. In other words, you can enjoy what you have. Then he says, tell them to use their money to do good. They should be rich in good works and generous to those in need, always being ready to share with others. By doing this, they will be storing up treasure as a good foundation for the future so that they may experience true life. It's good words. See, the best way to release this hold that money can have on us is to actually take on the posture of generosity. So according to Jesus, our money is a trademark of our allegiance. Is my allegiance to money or to Jesus? It just can't be both. So perhaps this message is a bit of a kind of a warrant of fitness for our souls today. And we have it on the wall here, It needs to be in our hearts here, a trait of who we are individually and as a group of people. It might be good to sit back and reflect on how we're doing on our value of generosity, because the Bible is really clear. Jesus is kind of uncomfortably clear. It's easy for us to be consumed by a world that's shinier, faster, newer, bigger, brighter. Easy to get caught up in a lot of dreams that what would happen if we won the big one. But let's step off that treadmill of being consumed with money and stuff and exchange it rather to be consumed with Jesus and what he's doing in our city to renew people and places. Because he calls us to be a part of that. Jesus is active and alive, invites us to partner with him, to link in, and to see that our money is a tool to make forever friends. It's a test of our faithfulness, and it's a trademark of our allegiance. Let's pray together. Jesus, we can get to this kind of stage in a message and breathe in a sigh of relief that it's over. Because this is a tough topic for many of us. But Jesus, thank you that we can talk to you about it. And that when we're talking to you, we're talking to one who doesn't ask us to do what you haven't already done yourself. That Jesus, you left the glory, you left the riches of glory behind you. And you left it all behind in order to save us. You used it as a tool to make forever friends. And so we are your friends right here, forever. Not only that, but you were faithful in what you had and faithful to do what was asked of you. And not only that, but you never allowed money or stuff to master you, even when you were tempted by such things. And so Jesus, would you help us step into this journey and grow in this journey towards generosity? As it's a trait of you, Jesus, would it be a trait of us as a church community? We honestly declare, Jesus, that money pulls on our hearts, on our minds. It's powerful. And we need your Spirit to give us courage and to give us faith to believe that what you say is true. And the promises you give to us are true. And so would you help us to step out in obedience, as hard as it might be, but to experience the joy and the thrill of being part of what you're doing to renew people and places. Thank you, Jesus. Amen.